Your tomato leaves are looking all dead and bruised and battered and tired. If I got some young whippersnappers listen to me, maybe you'll remember what is going on in Texas. And then my time, my energy, my effort in trying to revive tomato plants that I know don't need to be revived. Garden burnout is real. The August garden is definitely different than the May garden. We start off really strong, and then by August, we start to enter garden burnout, and we start making mistakes that we are going to regret. In this video, I'm going to give you 7 mistakes that a lot of gardeners make in the month of August, because I want you to avoid these 7 mistakes so that you can have more food even throughout the rest of the summer. What you do in this month can literally make or break what happens for the rest of your harvest season, for the rest of the summer gardening season, and also setting up for fall. And so watch this video, take notes, put me in your ear, and let's talk about the 7 mistakes that gardeners make in the month of August. Now, if you're like me, garden burnout is real. By this time, y'all, we have started way back in January or February trying to order our seeds, start our seeds, put them out. And by August, garden burnout starts to set in. And so I want to talk about some mistakes so that you can go ahead and put these on your radar and don't do these things. I want you to press through. And so if you are brand new here, thank you so much for stopping by. My name is Barbara. I live in Zone 7B in the state of Tennessee. And I'm sitting in my backyard and I'm looking around and I'm like, out of all my 3 gardening spaces, this one definitely looks the best. But all I see is work, 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 work. Y'all, it's not over. And so let's talk about and dive into these 7 mistakes that gardeners make. Now, I want to address garden burnout because it is real. So as I'm giving you these 7 tips, I want to say, I see you. I recognize that you're tired. I recognize that maybe you have not had the garden that you wanted. I recognize that plants don't look as good as they did back in May. I recognize that the harvest basket may be a little bit less than it was in June or July, but there is a but. Don't give up. We got to press through. We got to lock in. So let's start with mistake number 1. Mistake number 1 is this, is that we mistake an ugly garden for a finished garden. Yes, you're looking around, your tomato leaves are looking all dead and bruised and battered and tired. The aphids are there, the hornworms, all you see are branches and leaves. Your cucumber plants are on their way out. And so it looks like a bad looking garden. But don't make the mistake of thinking, okay, a bad looking garden means the garden is over. Gardening season is over. It is not over. In zone 7, right now, at the time of this video, we still have 70 days left. Y'all, what can happen in 70 days? A lot can happen in 70 days if we just press through. And so if you are looking right now at your foliage, if you're looking at the squash plant and the vine borer has gotten it, if your cucumber plants look less than stellar, if your bean plants, your green bean plants have put on one big flush and then no other flushes, do not mistake that for that the garden is finished. It is not finished. Now, I'll be honest with you, some plants are failing. We'll talk about that later on in the video, but I don't want you to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I don't want you to see a few plants or even a lot of plants and say, okay, you know what, the whole gardening season is over. I want you to think about each plant that you have in your garden right now. Is it heat stressed? Is it completely done, or does it just need some water? Or maybe the green beans are done, but maybe the bush beans are just now kicking up, the purple whole peas and all of that. Maybe your tomatoes are done, but your peppers are just now getting their second wind. And so don't throw away the whole garden in the month of August. That is mistake number 1. Number 2 that I want to talk about in terms of a mistake is this: knowing the difference between heat stress and disease. Now, for me in Tennessee, I'm in the South. It's hot and it's humid. I know there's some places that are listening and tuning in. You guys are even hotter than me. Texas, Louisiana, Florida. Like, I was in Texas last week and I thought, what? I'm about to die. What is going on in Texas? It was 105 degrees at 9 p.m. at night. Like, why are we doing that? Why is it that hot? But here's the point. Don't mistake heat stress with disease. Now, you may have disease, and you can tell that by the coloring of your leaves. If it's turning brown, like cucumber plants are not designed to last you the entire summer. Your tomato plants are not designed to last you the entire summer, right? They have a shelf life. And for most of us, you can do second successions, maybe not of tomatoes, but of cucumbers. And so if your cucumbers have done their thing for the last 60 to 75 days, if you are in a zone that has at least 60 more days left until the first frost date, then you still have time to do another round of cucumbers, right? So heat stress is going to look like disease plants are going to look like brown foliage, things that look burnt. Like I had some green beans, they look like they were burnt to a crisp. So when it comes to disease, know if your plant is disease or heat stress. Now, also think about when you're going out to your garden to evaluate things and you're making all these garden decisions. If you're out there in the middle and the hottest part of the day, then your plants may look wilted, right? They may look curled under because it's the hottest part of the day. They may just be stressed by heat and not disease. Disease for me is what I'm thinking about when I see yellow leaves, brown leaves, burnt leaves, things like that is more sometimes indicative of a disease versus heat stress. When I'm thinking about heat stress, I'm thinking about leaves that are, curled under and things like that. Now, that can also sometimes be a form of a disease. And again, I don't get it perfect every time, but my point is this, is that know your plants, know what you've planted, and evaluate each plant on its own merit when it comes to heat stress versus disease. One of the things I do when I feel like my plants are heat stressed, like right now, it is hot, it's in the middle of the day, is that if I'm looking at my plants now, they may be looking curled under. What I will do is I will wait till the sun goes down or the sun abates some. I will water it and then I will come out and check first thing in the morning. Did they bounce back, right? If it's heat stress, a lot of times when you water it or when the sun goes down, they will automatically revert back to a good, healthy state. Versus when it's disease, the water is not going to fix it, okay? So let me know in the comments if this is one, if I'm on your street with number 2, with heat stress versus disease. As we move on to number 3, let's talk about the third mistake that gardeners make in the month of August. Okay, the other thing when it comes to the month of August is sometimes we try to rescue the stressed plants with more fertilizer. Now, I'm a big proponent of fertilizing, but you have to know your climate and you have to know where you are. Now, one thing, when you fertilize, you never want to fertilize in the heat of the day, right? If it's above 80 degrees, you should not be fertilizing. And so you have to fertilize when it is more cool at the top of the morning or at the end of the evening. But when it comes to August, I am slowing down my fertilization schedule. I'm focusing on the things that are heavy feeders. But like, for example, my tomatoes right now are on their way out. I'm not fertilizing my tomatoes anymore because they're on their way out. It doesn't make sense for me to try to fertilize and pump it up when I know that the tomatoes have a certain life cycle. For me, my tomatoes have been in the ground since April. And so now we're at August. They're on their way out. Versus I have tomato plants back here that are determinate that were planted in the ground mid-June. They're not on their way out. They're just now putting on blooms and stuff, and they haven't even turned red yet. So that is the difference. So for these, I will fertilize because they're not on their way out, but I will still do it in the cool of the day, not in the middle of the day when it is burning up hot. So make sure that, yes, you want to fertilize your heavy feeders. So for example, corn is another one. I just did a second succession of corn. And so that corn needs fertilizer. But again, I'm making sure it's the right temperature of the day, but then also I am making sure that I'm not over fertilizing because too much fertilizer while it's on top of heat stress can cause the plant to kind of slow down production. One of the other things that I want you to remember, I talked about in both of my garden tours for June and July. I'll pop them up here if you want to see the garden tours that I've done for the past 2 months. In my hot tunnel, I talked about my pepper plants inside the raised bed on the right-hand side. My pepper plants, they look good, they're beautiful, they're green, but I told you in those videos, they were not producing. Like I just got flowers like 2 or 3 weeks ago. The plants were growing, they were green, they looked healthy, but there was no fruit. Right? So I could go and say, okay, let me fertilize some more because they need more fertilizer. No, I knew, okay, something is not, it's not a fertilization issue because the plants look good. They're green, they're lush, but it was, to me, was a heat issue. They're in the hot tunnel. It's, we had extreme heat. Heat indexes of 105 to 112. And so as soon as the temperatures start to die back a little bit, I guarantee you those peppers will produce. And just last week, or no, earlier this week, I saw flowers, but I saw peppers forming. So again, that is another clear example of that the fertilization was not my issue. It was the fact that they may have been heat stress and just to give it time. So again, everything is coming back full cycle. If I throw the baby out with the bathwater, then I would have thought those pepper plants are not doing any good, which was number 1. Number 2, when I talked about heat stress versus disease, if I thought, oh, these plants must be something wrong with them, let me pull them up. No, that's not it. not it either. Number three is making sure that you don't over fertilize. And so I didn't over fertilize, and now they're putting on blossoms. Okay. Now, some of this is, again, I have been gardening for 6 years. Did I know this year one? No. But what I'm asking you to do, if you are, especially if you're a beginner, is to know your plants, to look and to evaluate each plant on its own merit. Number four is this, especially, again, everybody's in a different climate. You may be in a cooler climate, like, for example, let's say that you're in the Pacific Northwest. Your tomatoes may just now be starting to put on because you get your tomatoes later. You want to make sure, again, if you're in a climate that has intense heat, you don't want to over prune your tomatoes in the month of August. That is a mistake that I see people doing. So again, yes, you want to prune your tomatoes. Yes, you want to have airflow, but in extreme heat, you do not want to over prune your tomatoes if they are indeterminate, right? Some of that foliage is going to act as a protection or a cover or a barrier, right? If you prune too heavily and it has heat stress, then it's going to slow down the production of your plant. So number four is don't over prune your tomato plants in the month of August. And again, some of you may be saying, well, I thought you said prune. Yeah, I did say prune in June. In August, prune, but with caution, right? Now, for me, again, my tomato plants are on their way out. I'm not spending my time, my energy, my effort in trying to revive tomato plants that I know don't need to be revived. Does that make sense? It's kind of like being in a bad relationship that you know is bad, but you still trying to revive it, and that thing is done, it's over. You need to just let it go, right? That's how it is for me when it comes to my tomatoes and cucumbers. I pulled all of my cucumbers out, right? I don't care how much fertilizer I would have given it. It's not going to work. I just need to plant more cucumbers, okay? So number four is don't over prune your tomatoes during this month of August or under high heat conditions. The fifth mistake that I see a lot of gardeners make in the month of August is that they're too casual when it comes to pests. You're treating pests just like, oh, okay, it's August, it's supposed to have a little damage and all that. You still got to be on pest patrol. I've been talking about pest patrol all summer. You still got to be on pest patrol. And when you see the first sign of pest and disease, you got to take action right then. The hornworms, the aphids, the vine borers, the flea beetles, all of that stuff, when you see it, take action, because that one thing can really ruin and decimate a lot of your plants literally overnight or within 2 to 3 days. And I've seen this way too many times, again, and sometimes it's not because, oh, we think it's just a cosmetic issue. We're burned out, right? I get it. I talked about that at the beginning of the video. But what I'm asking you is to be diligent, to keep going. When you see the pest, go ahead and get it off, because if you don't, it can turn into a bigger issue or a bigger infestation. Number six is one that I am guilty of. When I say guilty, guilty as charged. And number six is this, is keeping and hanging on to a fruit or to a plant that still has fruit on it, but it looks diseased. I have done that so many times. Matter of fact, I got some right now, and I'm picking on the tomatoes because the tomatoes are the things in August for me and my garden that look the worst this time of the year, except the tomato plants that I planted later as a second succession. But the ones that I planted way back then, they look the worst. So they getting it today, y'all. But I have plants right now in my garden, in my high tunnel, that look bad. Like it has hornworm damage. I did take away some of them, but I did not take away all of them. So it has hornworm damage, but it still has a few cherry tomatoes on there. I'm trying to get the last little bit. Y'all, don't do that. Don't do that. If you guilty, just say you guilty. Just put guilty in the chat if you guilty. And again, y'all, I get it. Because as gardeners, we're trying to grow the most food that we can get, because y'all, it's not just about, oh, let me take a cute picture for Instagram. We are feeding our families, right? We are growing our groceries. That is what we are doing. But at the same time, you have to be on top of, just because a plant still has a couple of cherry tomatoes on there that's not diseased, but the rest of the plant look like trash, go ahead and let's get the rest of the plant. Let's get that out of the garden. Here's the reason why. It's because that disease on that plant can spread to the next plant that's doing just fine. And before you know it, again, you may have a row of tomato plants, a row of cucumber plants that are all infested. If you would have just took the one culprit out, then you could have saved 3 or 4 other plants. Again, going back to a bad relationship. Who's been in a bad relationship? I'm sure many of you have, if not everybody who's listened to this, right? You've been in a bad relationship. You know that thing was south. It was going south when you met him. It was going south when you met her. Like, and hello, it was bad. But you tried to stick and stay. You tried to stay with it. But you knew it was going to the road of nowhere. It's the same thing. You got to be able to let it go. And I know this is hard for gardeners. It's hard for me. You hate to pull out something that's producing, even if it's just 2 cherry tomatoes. but you got to be able to pull that stuff out. So that is number 6, is don't keep bad disease plants just because it has a little bit more fruit on it. Okay. And then our final mistake that gardeners make, and I think this just falls into the category of, I'm tired, boss. I'm tired. I've done all I can do. But you know me. If you tune into this channel, I'm going, you can do a little bit more. I'm going to give you the encouragement to do a little bit more. And number 7 is this, is not getting the lessons that the garden is teaching you in your own garden in the month of August. What do I mean by that? Your garden is always teaching you lessons. It's teaching you lessons about a lot of stuff. But what I'm specifically talking about on this point is what varieties have stood the test of time. I talked about this in an earlier video, and I'm going to mention it again. You should be taking notes. You should have a garden journal. If it's on your phone, if it's on the back of a napkin, do whatever, wherever it is, don't let it just be in your brain. Okay? Things that you write down, things that you put pen to paper, things that you type in, they become real. You have a repository, right? Don't your brain, that's not the repository. You have to get it out of here, out of your eyes, out of your brain, and put it somewhere on paper in a notepad and a note app or whatever. Take note. What varieties have stood the test of time? What varieties are winners? What varieties are you like, I'm never ever gonna plant that again, right? Your garden is showing you in the month of August what the lessons are. And a lot of times we're not paying attention, we're burned out, or we just simply say, I'll remember, and you're not gonna remember. Come closer, you're not gonna remember. Ask me how I know. You're not gonna remember. Now, if I got some young whippersnappers listen to me, maybe you'll remember. Now, before I had kids and before I turned 30, my memory was A1. Something about them kids getting older, memory not A1. If I don't write it down, it does not exist. Okay, it didn't happen. I'm not gonna do it. All of the things. And so number 7 is making sure that you're paying attention to the lessons that the garden is giving you in the month of August. The reason why this is important is because I talk about on this channel a lot about being intentional, right? Being intentional. And what happens is when it's time to order seeds in January or February, you're going to look back at your list and say, okay, what did I have last summer? Oh yeah, I had such and such a variety. And you're not going to remember that. You know what? That variety, it took me 15 times before it germinated. That variety only gave me 2 cucumbers instead of 10. Like, you're not going to remember. And what happens is you will do that same variety again. And you're like, man, I can't grow cucumbers. Well, no, sis, you can grow cucumbers. You just need a new variety. You need to pay attention to what went well in your area. Now, I'm all for listening to YouTube. I'm all for listening to people that live in my area and all of that. That is great when it comes to varieties, but there are some things that will grow well for me that will not grow well for you. And we may still both be in the state of Tennessee, right? And so I also talk about a lot is experimenting in your own garden. You should always be trying new varieties, but the things that work, make a note of it. Like, I'm 5-6 years into gardening, and so there are some crops that I know for a fact this is going to produce every single time. This variety is a keeper. I may try some new varieties to see if I have a new favorite, but this is tried and true. And so number 7 is making sure that you know what is tried and true in your garden. What is your garden telling you about what is not a good fit for your garden when it comes to pest, disease, and what did not stand the test of time? So y'all, these are the 7 mistakes that I see gardeners making in the month of August. And I don't want you to make these mistakes. If you can just hang on a little bit longer, cooler weather is coming. Easier gardening is coming. But we got to press through the month of August. And you pressing through could mean the difference of you bringing in 2 more bushels of produce versus not. You having stuff set up for the winter and preserved or not. It means all the difference. And so I want to hear from you in the comments. Out of these 7, which one is the one that you're like, guilty? That is me, that you're going to focus on. Maybe you can't do all 7. Maybe you're like, Barbara, I don't have much more to give. I want to know in the comments, what is the one thing that was an aha moment for you that you're like, okay, yes, I can do better at that. I will meet you in the comments. Y'all, I'm here to encourage you. even at a time when I feel burned out myself. I've not been in my garden in 2 days just because of life, right? Not because necessarily, well, it was a desire because life was happening. I'm like, I just don't even have the energy. And I know that you see me on here on YouTube, always hype, always up. It doesn't mean that I want to go to my garden every single day. It does not mean that. It just means that there are most days that I like to go to the garden. There's some days that I push through, and there's other days that I don't push through. I give myself grace and give myself a break. I just make sure that they don't end up being a week or a month, okay? So I want to meet you where you are. I want to encourage you. I want to inspire you. It's not over. It is not over. Meet me in the comments and let me know which one of these mistakes really resonated for you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that when you see this, you have the most amazing day, the most amazing weekend. And remember, y'all, gardening truly is a journey. Let's do it together. I'll see you next time, friend. Thanks so much for stopping by our channel. And if you would, take a moment and go to our website at livingfoodsfarm.com. You can see all of the latest YouTube videos in case you missed one. You can subscribe to the channel, sign up for our email list, as well as join our YouTube membership. Also, we have many items for sale under the shop tab. You can go to kitchen or to skin and body, depending on what you're looking for. We source many of the items right here from things that we grow on the farm, or we buy from an organic source. We also have digital resources as well that you can instantly download. We have everything from seed starting calculators, how to build healthy soil, as well as 2-hour classes, replays on sourdough, canning, and fall gardening, and how to start your garden for the very first time. So go take a look, see if there's anything that you would be interested in, and thank you so much again for stopping by our channel.